What would you say, just something instinctively, is the common denominator of people that have balance, the right type of balance?
Okay. What comes to me are you ready? It sounds very mysterious from the mountains of East Asia. It's the 8th key. It's called Be Like Bamboo. But this is genuinely a vision that I constantly see in my mind. That one of the greatest ways to get through life, and actually one of the greatest strengths that we can have, is by being flexible.
Hi, and welcome to Common Denominator, a podcast about growth, mindset, and entrepreneurship. I'm Moshe Popek, and today we chat with Dr. Jenelle Kim. Dr. Kim is a 9th-generation herbologist, practitioner of martial arts, and practitioner of the Tao. She's also the international best-selling author of Biohacking, the Korean art of living meditation. And she's been featured on Good Morning America, Forbes, The HuffPost, and much more. She's here to help you master your mind and body and to optimize your personal and professional success. Now here's my conversation with Dr. Kim. Hi, Dr. Kim, and welcome to Common Denominator.
Hello, and thank you for having me. So happy to be here.
So I have, for many years, my own meditation practice, and I know for me, it really sets up my day, and it's super important to have that. Why do you find that everybody should have some sort of meditation practice?
Oh, I think it's vital, and actually I'm going to just start right out of the gates here and discuss something that is a little bit different than what people might expect me to answer, right? And so actually what I speak on is living meditation. And I'm sure we're going to touch on this many times during our conversation today, but I feel like I'd even like to begin that way. Sure. So I would like to acknowledge that you just said you start your day every with meditation. I do as well. Mine might look a little bit different. I am a 9th generation in my lineage. Doctor of Acupuncture and Traditional Oriental Medicine, practitioner of Qigong, which to me, that is the form of meditation. At least I very much couple it together, that I practice on a daily basis. Also when I first wake up in the morning and throughout my day. I'm also author of Miraculous, the Korean art of living meditation. And so why I want to enter that right now is that, yes, I did put into a book this understanding of living meditation, but that's the root and the foundation of what everything is built upon.
So tell us about, I have my own ideas what that looks like, living meditation. You mentioned the book, what's the core takeaways from living meditation? So
this is the 8 keys of living meditation. So I broke it down into the chapters, but these keys ultimately help us to balance. That's a word you're going to hear me say in every single aspect of anything that I talk about, the way that I live my life. I couldn't live without this understanding. So to me, meditation, living meditation, it's about balancing, having the ability to be able to balance with anything that comes your way. And that is of utmost importance. So I speak of 3 M's, which is medicine, movement, and meditation. And at the core of all 3 of these pillars, as they've been handed down for thousands upon thousands of years, each one of these practices, I call them tools, including meditation, including seated and moving meditation, as we began this conversation together. It's all founded on the Tao, the universe, right? It's a principle of a lifestyle that I certainly live by and couldn't live without and wish to share. And again, it always comes back to everything in this life is about balance. And if we're able to remain calm so that we can see clearly what is in front of us, then we can handle anything that comes our way. And to me, that is the most important thing about meditation, to be honest. So
I know. I did it. My wife and I, we practiced a couple of sessions of Qigong.
Yes.
And the visualization was unbelievable. It completely slowed down my mind. And we were doing this exercise where there was this board in a lake, and I actually was able to kind of see that. And I'm a big believer, just in something simple like in business.
Yes.
That's always what I look for when I'm partnering with anybody or I'm doing anything. I need them to be able to communicate, to be crystal clear, the vision.
Absolutely.
If that's not crystal clear,
yes,
it's hard for me to believe that they believe in themselves.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. And this is why I love these moments together in this manner, these conversations, because I just got finished having what I felt was a very important conversation that so often in life, whether it is in business, whether it is literally your life, your purpose, no matter what area, how often we don't know what it is that we're even looking for, right? So of course in business, that's pretty clear. I want to achieve this, and now we have a goal to get there. If I may say, I also think it's incredibly important. What I look for when working with people or having people close to me is that you also have the ability to be flexible and you can pivot, because the goal might be right here. And we think that if we start here and rush to it, that's how we're supposed to get there. But how often in life, we actually have to go a different path. But I love that you just said that, and I couldn't agree more.
I'll tell you something, but you'd be surprised how many people, they're looking from just their perspective. I always say, okay, explain to me very clearly how, it's business, right? So how this is going to be a successful business venture for everybody.
Right.
How everybody's going to make money, how it makes sense. It's actually very rare that someone can explain it.
Yes.
When they do, I'm like, okay, either you're hired or we're doing it.
I love that.
And they see that, but for years, you talk about qigong. For part of my journey was in the space of the samurai.
Yes.
In the idea of the samurai, and I've talked about it on the show, it's basically you're existing here in this world.
Right.
But you become a conscious observer.
Yes.
Very similar to what you're saying.
Yes.
Right? Living meditation. So it's not you, right?
Yes.
Someone's upset about something and something's happening. If you take a step back, and the reason why things don't happen is because humans have one type of fear or another.
Yes.
But the beautiful thing about fear, which is something that I'm really, really touching on, is that it's fear of something that was programmed, something happened in the past, so it's not actually happening right now.
Right. Present.
Or of something that will happen in the future.
Right.
Once you really know that and you move through it, because I just had a situation just yesterday where I had the same exact situation a year ago.
Yes.
And I went down this negative spiral.
Of course.
And now it was just like surrender, and then it just solved itself.
I could not agree more.
Right.
And that is, you're right. I love that you brought up the samurai. It is something I live by, that samurai code, the warrior mind. And it is about seeing where other people stand. I don't think, maybe not a lot of people, particularly in the Western culture, do understand that code of living, really what it is. It's a commitment, and I was raised that way, to be honest. It is, at the end of the day, living meditation and those principles very much are rooted in those principles of being able to put yourself outside of your own shoes and see where they're. The samurai, they protected. And what people don't always know, and there's many different translations, but one way of translating or defining what samurai even means, and that what they committed themselves to is of service, and that's what gave that strength. And I think you're going to like this. I'm just going to say it right now, but of the 8 keys, there's obviously 8 of them, and one of those keys is called stop being drunk on your own thoughts. And that's all I keep hearing. And when people ask me on interviews or in life, what are some of my favorites? Obviously, I feel that they're all incredibly important. The first being know your true self. That is the first key. We always have to look inward. At the end of the day, we are the only thing that we are in control of is ourself. We always have a choice, but that's a lifelong journey. I always say you're not supposed to read this chapter and that's it. Now you've got it. If that occurs, I'd love to know. But there's a few keys that really resonate, and certainly one that I just brought up does. Stop being drunk on your own thoughts. And when we stop and think about what that means, it's exactly what we're talking about. Whether it's in business, in parenting, in relationships, in the community, we can only imagine if we start to train ourselves that no matter whatever happens, and this is living meditation ultimately, right? Whatever comes in front of us, if we take a pause, which is literally a pause, we can handle a pause even if we have to move quick, right? And we, for just that moment in time, expand, I say zoom out, right? Zoom out, change our perspective, maybe put yourself in someone else's shoes for a moment. Maybe before you react, I always talk about the difference between reacting and responding. I've made it a thing in my mind. You can say these words and they could mean nothing. But to me, and in the book I speak about and how I was taught by my greatest mentor, my father, was in any situation, if you react, it's based on emotion. right? I've trained myself this way. And emotion is so important. We're human beings. We have to have emotion. We have to have feelings. It's very important. There's a role. But if we let that run our lives, our life can become very chaotic. We can make a lot of decisions that later, because we didn't pause and we just reacted in that moment, a lot of times we regret that. A lot of times we might not even know that had we paused, we would have had a much better outcome. But to me, when I say that word respond, and I literally will do this. These are my tools and what I teach, of course, but I live. In any situation, when you pause and feel that word, I'm going to respond to what's happening. That's the balance I'm speaking of. We start training our mind. I'm a doctor of traditional Oriental medicine. I make formulations that are good for our skin and our body. But what I teach, part of those 3 M's, the movement, Qigong, moving meditation, and the mindset, the living meditation, they're all so incredibly important as well. And I don't want to keep going down this tangent, but it's just so very important to be able to utilize those tools to broaden our perspective, to learn how to balance, as I said. And then it basically opens up this whole other way of living where we can remain as calm, ready to handle whatever comes our way.
I don't think there's anybody that made a bad decision statistically that has not reacted, right?
Right.
In other words, I've been training 13 years, and I know you also. I don't know what kind of martial arts you train. What kind of martial arts do you train?
So at this point in my life, I really focus on my Qigong practice, and that is what I teach as well. But traditional martial arts.
Traditional martial arts. So I've been training jiu-jitsu for 13 years.
Beautiful.
And now I'm only after 13 years am I really seeing where someone's directly going to punch me or
sure.
directly, and I'm not. My mind is not there.
Right.
It's no mind.
Yes.
It's flow.
Yes.
And
from nothing
and
comes
only
everything.
now. That's right. From nothing comes everything, and then I'm able to just muscle memory react.
Yes.
And then that. But imagine that, right? You're training so long to get to a place, because I don't necessarily. Everything is just noise upon noise of layers of games and manipulation of. But really, we have all the answers within ourselves.
That's the one place we have them. Again, we clearly resonate.
Right.
Not surprised, which is why we're sitting here right now. But absolutely, in the book, it's actually something, a line that I'll share often at events when closing, is that all the answers in this everything that you're looking for, you can find within yourself, of course, number one, but also because you're connected to nature and the universe around us. Right. And so what a beautiful thing to really pause and think about, even in this moment. I'm grateful to really even saying it in that way and putting my heart into what I'm saying. It gives a sense of calm and comfort, security. I think those are probably the most important things for a human being.
Right. The conflict is, right, you know what your own personal journey is, but friends and family or people that you've known, right? And you're balancing that versus being lonely because we're social beings, right?
Yes, connection.
So you know what your journey's supposed to be.
Right.
And then it's just years of it being hard.
Yes.
To say, you know what? No. I'm not harming anybody. This is who I am.
Yes.
This is what I want to do. And and I think that we try to do a lot of that on the show to empower people
it's vital.
to be who they are. Tell me, and I've studied a lot of Western medicine, Eastern medicine. I'm a layperson.
Yes.
I'm not a doctor, but Eastern, and we talk a lot on the show about it. What would you say is better, Eastern or Western medicine?
Well, anyone who knows me knows that that's not even both. I'll go back to first came the Tao, the universe, and why I very much resonate is, of course, I come from a lineage of this, so I was born, it's just a part of my spirit. But when I go to speak on this, kind of long story short, Tao 101, which is by the way, like lifetimes of understanding, is that from the Tao, which is the universe, came yin and yang. Right? And I do want to preface, too, for people who are not as familiar, one of the reasons I personally just love speaking of these principles, the Tao, the universe, and sharing this is that one of the most beautiful things about it, the way that I understand and I've been taught, is it doesn't matter your religious beliefs, your political beliefs, your ethnicity, your gender, your age, because we're all human being and we're all part of this universe. So that's what I like to say first. I root myself in that personally as well. But first came the universe, then came yin and yang. That's the duality, that's the dichotomy that literally everything is part of. And if we start to understand it in this way, and I will answer your question, but it kind of covers everything, is that now you have yin and yang. You have day and night, right? You have sadness and happiness. You cannot know happiness unless you have sadness. You cannot know opportunity and success unless you have failure. So everything within our bodies as well. Right? So the medicine, my day job, as I say, that's also how our body works. We have yin and yang. We have blood and body fluids and vital energy, qi, and they work together. And so I will always answer any question that comes my way. You ask me what's better, east and west, it's the balance. It's the yin and the yang. To me, even as a doctor, an expert in beauty and wellness for decades now, so on and so forth. Of course, I'm a proponent for people. I commit myself to doing everything possible so that I'm a good place that whoever chooses to, I can do my very best to educate properly and share certain things. But at the end of the day, you are your best doctor. You have to know yourself. You have to be aware of your own mind, body, and spirit. And that's what I think is waking up, particularly in this part of the world. So incredibly important. So at the end of the day, kind of in conclusion to my response right now, is be as aware as possible, educate yourself. And the doors are opening for all of us now, which is nice. We are, in general, as the West, understanding much more of the ancient, medicine, philosophies, movement. We also have modern medicine, right? And so if we start to understand when to do, when not to do. We have antibiotics, thank goodness. If you have an infection, go and take these antibiotics. So it's both. Both are necessary. And I believe I'm going to really go out on a limb here and say this, but I think any good practitioner, any good doctor would respond in this way, because that is the best thing for our patients and for all of us.
Yeah. I know the typical American medical system is, you get this book,
right?
And here's these pills,
right?
Pharmaceuticals, and that's I'm a big proponent of, if there's an emergency,
of course,
you want to be in America, because
yes.
America has the best technology to deal with that.
I was just going to say, for diagnosis and certain surgeries
right.
and emergency treatments, absolutely.
Correct. Right. But then before you get there,
yes,
I always say, okay, so here's the thing. Your general sense of well-being.
Right.
So I think of, okay, so America's the best with disease, right? But then there's a lot of doctors, as you're saying, there's a lot more awakening.
Yes.
Functional medicine.
Yes.
Nutrition, exercise,
absolutely.
sleep, right?
Doesn't it make sense? Even balance. When you're saying all these things, doesn't it make sense to pay attention in this way?
I'm seeing a lot of people. I'm not blaming people. Sure. There's a lot that use the quick fix, because that's what we're used to. We're trained our habits to the Ozempic and
right.
things like that. I understand it. There's a place and time.
Right.
But remember, there's also side effects.
Yes.
Right. And then now there's a lot of journeying in longevity as well.
Absolutely.
In cells, in stem cells, and cleaning out blood, and some really, really cool stuff.
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons I'm here this weekend, right, at the Ultimate Wellness Miami, the biohacking event. That's the whole thing.
So tell me about that
yes.
event. So what's the... so it's once a year?
Yes, actually, this is my first time being here. I just met with Julia. She's amazing, and I believe that she had one last year. And I actually travel all over the country and the world speaking at different events such as this, which is a beautiful thing, kind of bridging longevity, wellness, beauty. 20 years ago, I started in the beauty industry, creating formulations, and it was always, long story short, a deep dream to connect what I have kind of introduced before, the 3 M's. Medicine, which is everything that I just spoke about, your skincare, beauty care, hair care, internal supplements, the food that you eat, all of that, with movement and mindset. And now here we are, fast forward 20 plus years, 20 years ago, let me be very clear, I would walk into these huge beauty shows that I am now at, doing these types of events. If I spoke about meditation, I talked about natural products.
Sure.
Clean beauty was not even a thing. Talking about herbs and plant medicine, Korean beauty, and people looked at me like, what in the world is she talking about? Yeah. And it never fazed me. That's the truth, because I knew people are going to be looking for this, and here we are. So it's a beautiful thing, and this is what that event embodies as well.
It's funny because my wife and her parents is typical Eastern European parents, and I'm sure in the Korean culture as well. You must do this. So
sure.
So my wife's like, I want to be food intolerance. I want to go into the, do testing
Sure.
and help people with that when she was 19. And her mom's like, that's not a job. That's
Right.
nothing. She would go into the shops, and she was living in New York at the time.
Yes.
And she was very aware that our gut health.
Yes.
And now it's coming out more and more.
Of course.
Microbiome and the different levels of that. So you're actually allergic to different foods.
Right.
And she would do the testing. If she got into that then, instead of going to law school,
Oh my gosh.
right?
Absolutely. It was not even a thing. Now meditation is the topic.
Right.
Biohacking is the topic. Clean beauty, that's,
Right.
and I don't think it's just
Longevity and all
yes.
that.
Thank goodness.
Billions invested.
Oh my
Billions
gosh.
invested into
And
that.
I see that as just the beginning, and I'm so happy about it. This is not a trend. This is going to stay.
No,
and
I just-
also, I don't mean to cut you off. Also, this is not new, right?
Right.
Yeah, I say the original biohackers were the Taoist immortals, like 10,000 years ago.
It's not. What happens is in life, you take the computer, you take the phone,
Right.
the cell phone. So what happens is, or you take AI.
Yes.
So nothing, there's a group, or cryptocurrencies, or whatever you happen to be, or electric
Right.
vehicles, right? So there's a group, and there's a small group, and they're going on
Yes.
10 years,
Right.
15, like in your case, 20 years.
Right.
And they're talking, and they're exhausted, and people give
Yes.
up. And there's a few that stick around.
Yes.
And then the influencers
Right.
are able to get the masses to go
Yes.
over and
Yes.
make things happen.
Yes.
But throughout history, right? So if we were a few hundred years ago and we said, okay, the world is flat,
Right.
we'd be killed,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely.
So that's so people have to realize that it's not. Why shouldn't Why shouldn't everybody have a general sense of well-being and feel
Absolutely.
good?
And here's the thing, at the end of the day, I agree with you, of course, but to be very Taoist in my way of looking at it, do it or don't, because at the end of the day, we all have a choice.
That's right.
And if you choose not to, then don't. But then what we have to realize is, as you walk down the road of life and things start to happen to you, the consequences of your actions, depending on your constitution, some of us can get away with more than others, don't be surprised and don't go blaming everyone around you, but at the end of the day, it was your choice. But the beautiful thing now that we're both saying, and I'm repeating, is that now eyes are being opened more. This is coming out more for people to understand that these, even my road of life, when I went to school to study, I was on my way to study Western medicine, pivoted because it was like that light bulb. I felt it inside. I knew at the age of 19, this is what I have to do. Huge leap of faith. Everyone thought I was joking. And I went and thought, you know what, one day I can always come back to study Western medicine. At that time, though, practicing what I preach, I thought I'd have clinics. Actually, my lab, JBK Wellness Labs, is named after my great-grandfather. He was an amazing practitioner. I loved being with patients in my clinic. But once again, life took a shift. Here I am now making formulas. And again, had I not made that leap of faith, and why I'm sharing this is, now I look forward 20 plus years, and I'm so grateful because I had made a promise to myself that I love being in clinic, and I do feel that that's not what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And then I opened my own mind at that moment, practiced what I preach, living meditation, and I realized, you know what, Jenelle, don't be so narrow. Maybe you can't open tons of clinics and show people the integration of East and West and why Eastern and ancient practices are important. But maybe you can see that on this path of working with all these big brands, speaking at these events, that the world can become your clinic, whoever is open. And that's exactly what's happened, going places that people aren't necessarily looking. And then you're able to open their eyes to what exists. Really, there's nothing more beautiful than that.
So you make clean beauty, we call it that, for different major brands and independent brands?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I'm a manufacturer, custom manufacturer. So we're behind the brands. So you come to us with an ingredient, an idea. We have big companies that come to us with formulas that all of you would be. And in one sense, you can look at us that we're the innovators. But to me, that's just what we do. Right. And so then we can reformulate or create a formula from zero and basically do everything from concept to finished product, out the door. So
and the difference between clean beauty and regular, is it chemicals? Is that what it is?
Yes, for the most part,
right.
artificial, scents and dyes and colors and chemicals and things that aren't good for you,
So it was just a conversation. We were in Europe in the summer.
Yes.
And I might have mentioned this on the show, but it just triggered my mind here. There's a box of Fruit Loops, and there's like 5 regular natural ingredients
Right.
in Europe. And then here, we just went to the store, we're looking, it's like red 40.
Oh, yes. Yes,
blue,
I mean, it's
blue
almost
60.
crazy that this still exists.
So why does it?
Well, I can't answer that, nor do I think I should. No, I'm just joking. But
I mean,
one of the ways I answer this question, we're babies. Like the United States is a baby, we're babies.
Right.
All these other, I like answering it this way. It makes sense. There's also so much, so much growth and expansion that can happen from this. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. When you go to other cultures in Europe and Asia, they've been around for so long, thousands upon thousands of years. And so maybe they just understand a bit more about what it is to, have it be a natural part of your life, making choices. This is the way I put it, right? Why natural? So we're told all of this, but at the end of the day, stop and understand why. Otherwise, you're just memorizing things. What does it make a difference if we do clean beauty, if we eat properly, if we take care of ourselves a certain way, we do movement. By the way, the 3 M's, medicine, movement, meditation, are the same pillars that 10,000 years ago, the Taoist immortals, the original biohackers, as I call them, they taught the same things. Nothing has changed, right? But anyways, I don't want to keep going on and on. But at the end of the day, it's just important because our body goes through so much. We all, to the most part, should understand, and I don't usually make statements, that our bodies are miraculous. They truly can heal. They're miraculous. We can heal ourselves from imbalances that occur. And if you think about it this way, so why is it important to eat proper foods? Why is it important to put on clean beauty, natural products? And it comes down to choice. Our bodies go through so much when we're sleeping, sitting right here. Constantly, our bodies are having to balance with everything around us. So why not make it a little easier for our bodies, mentally, physically, and spiritually, that if we start to put things onto and into our body that are easier for our body to balance with. So we're not putting harsh chemicals, preservatives, equals in the same category, artificial colors, fragrances, all of these things. It just makes it easier for our body to do what it needs to do. So why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, I think of, if you just think about it logically, I was at a lecture this week. They said it was about 150,000 different toxins that we're exposed to, and the medical system, possible blood work tests for maybe 100.
Yes.
Or 125. But what is it? I think of it. It's like food you eat.
Yes.
Water you drink.
Yes.
And the air you breathe.
Yes.
Right. You should have a right to be free of those things, but
of course,
it's an active
always,
process.
Always, it's an active process.
Yeah.
And the ancient doctors, masters, my lineage and many others, that's what they teach us. We certainly are part of a culture that we want everything right away. So we do all the things we're not even aware, and then we're really sick. First of all, you shouldn't. Here's another statement, and as I say, I'm careful with my statements, but I would go so far as to say that as human beings, it is very important for us to choose to be aware of ourselves so that we don't wait until, sometimes it's crazy how much our bodies, mind, body, spirit are telling us something is wrong, and we have no idea until it's so extreme that we can't function properly. And then we want something super quick to try to make it, if we stop and hear it in that way, it makes sense.
But it's hard. It's hard because
of course it is.
Because in society, right, so much is spent on marketing by the Fortune 500 to convince us of things that are good. Just something simple I heard this week. It's like, just take alcohol. 2 glasses of wine are good. Right. And I'm not judging anybody or anything, but all alcohol. It's just, you could tolerate some. The body's strong.
Right.
It's actually not. It's not the best thing.
Yes. I think
that's the story.
Yes.
Understood. That's the bottom line story.
Yes.
I'm gonna, and then a lot, and then they just made it normalized, and
right.
But then you pay the price, right? It's always that's always how it goes. But I know you also have a show on YouTube. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this just started as if I needed another job. I say that jokingly, but I'm so grateful that I was pushed to do so. I have been in the beauty industry and wellness industry, as I said, for many, many years. And so through that, I'm so grateful to connect with so many amazing people. And the one thing, if anyone knows me, and now you know me, I really, as a mom of 2 young boys, a wife, a good friend, members of the community, I own several businesses, You get the picture here.
Got it.
Okay, so one of the things that I love to teach, yes, one of the things I love to teach is, and what I was taught by my mentor is if you really put your heart and mind into something, it doesn't have to be so long. Medicine, meditation, movement, all of it. You need quick to the point, right? So everything I teach basically is concise to the point, but you set your mind and you be present when you do it. Same thing for this new show. The experts, basically, I've started in the beauty industry because for all the obvious reasons, and interviewing people such as L'Oreal, Juice Beauty, Tatcha, I mean, you name it, some of the biggest, Frederick Fekkai, some of our icons, in about 10 to 15-minute interviews where they go through and give very helpful tips on building brands, their story. So for brands who are in existence, want to become or consumers alike, it's so interesting to hear their story. It's inspiring just as people, but also what their advice is on building brands.
Yeah, I think
so that's what that is.
Yeah, no, those are super fascinating. Like opening up the hood of the car.
Yes, in 10 to 15 minutes. So there's no excuse why.
Right.
We can't hear someone who's truly achieved some amazing things in life. What they did in 10 minutes.
The thing I ask all guests, and I have an instinct what I think it is, but what's something that you're grateful for?
Oh gosh. Without gratitude, I don't know if I'd even still be in existence, to be honest. And I don't know if I usually say it that strong. I am grateful to be alive and connected, and that's the truth. It's interesting to share this at the end of an interview, which I imagine we're coming to our close now, given this question. But I lost my father over 8 years ago. He was my everything. One of the most amazing human beings I believe will ever walk the face of this earth. And I have to tell you, this might surprise everyone, but in answering it is life and connection. He was as healthy as you could possibly imagine. He was here one day and gone the next, and I was with him. But at this point in my life, I'm able to say that it's one of the greatest gifts, surprisingly so, I have ever received in my life, because every single moment, no matter how hard life ever gets, no matter how wonderful life ever gets, it is a constant reminder of how precious life is. And he gave that to me. Of course he would. So that's what I would say. It literally, and I don't want to go down a road of, fear. That's not what that is. But really, there's a chance we couldn't be here tomorrow. So how are you going to live? If you think that way, in a beautiful way, you live with a lot less regrets, So
yeah, I think that's something that always stuck in my mind. The greatest pain is pain of regret.
Yes.
And if you realize, right, and I said that right to my wife when we got married. I was like, how many summers, how many holidays, how many are we actually going to have where we're healthy while we're living too? Because that's lowering. We're living longer, but our healthy years are becoming less.
Yes. My kids teach me that too,
right?
Because you see them grow so fast in front of your eyes, So.
And yeah, we should never live in those regrets. And what would you say, just something instinctively, is the common denominator of people that have balance, the right type of balance?
Okay. What comes to me are you ready? It sounds very mysterious from the mountains of East Asia. It's the 8th key. It's called Be Like Bamboo. But this is genuinely a vision that I constantly see in my mind. That one of the greatest ways to get through life, and actually one of the greatest strengths that we can have, is by being flexible. And it's everything we're talking about, balancing with whatever comes our way. The stiffest board, as a martial artist, I know you can understand this. As we see, you can have a stiff board, and if I hit you with it, it would hurt so badly. But that rigidity, if you hit it too many times, life, or you hit it exactly right, it can break. But when you have that flexibility and that rootedness, no matter whatever happens in life, you can bounce right back. So that is something that I think for all of us as the common denominator, if we can remember that principle,
Sure.
it's very powerful.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kim.
Oh, so grateful.
How can people learn more about you or get your book?
Yes, of course. So I have my website, JenelleKim.com, Jenelle Kim, which is a place that you can, of course, find all of the things. I am engaged, and I've embraced social media, particularly Instagram is a place where I personally can go. And so that's Dr. Jenelle Kim, LinkedIn, all of those. YouTube, as we talked about, The Experts, that show. And yes, if for anyone who has questions about building a brand or would like to create one, of course, my lab, JBK Wellness Labs. So.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Really,
it's been
really
a pleasure.
Great. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Dr. Kim. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we'd be grateful for a like, share, and subscribe. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, feel free to leave a rating and review. Thanks so much. Talk to you again soon.